Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I will be talking about something I haven't talked about in a while, and that's just a boxing topic. Just thinking about the success of Floyd Mayweather in and outside of the ring. Um, him as being a fighter, he was known as a defensive fighter. Now, he was never the fastest. That would probably be like a Roy Jones Jr. or, Sugar Ray Leonard. He never was the strongest. That would be probably a Mike Tyson or George Foreman type, but he was always the smartest. Now, and that's the smartest inside and outside of the ring, just strategically what he was doing. So he made a career off of outsmarting his opponents and the world, or the business world, I should say. Now he made the villain role profitable. Now I remember watching boxing starting off. He used to talk, you know, slick to a lot of his opponents, and I was like, "Damn, that's not smart." They're gonna try to take him out in the ring or try to end his career, but he always ended up making the opponent looking like they didn't belong in the ring. Now these were formidable opponents, whether you want to say Canelo Alvarez or Manny Pacquiao later in his career. Some of the younger fights he had against Ricky Hatton, fights like that, Marcus Maidana, who I'll talk about in a little bit. These opponents were very formidable and were knocking players out, knocking boxers out. Had extreme punching power, which Mayweather didn't have. So a lot of people were wondering how will he be able to combat all of this aggressiveness or this power? How will he offset that? Not only by the jab, but just by his wit. I mean, not wit, but by his smarts in the ring. And he was also able to market himself off of shock value of things that he would say, things that he would do, moves that he would make. He pretty much set the blueprint for people now. Everything now in the media is shock value. It's about appeal, about clickbait. He created those headlines and created those stories and created those moves for people to be able to do that now. I'm pretty sure it was done before him in some way to, Muhammad Ali, but he took it to the next level. He invested in himself with his own promotion company, breaking away from Bob Arum and Top Rank and being able to, make his own bag. The only thing that I wish he would have done in his career is just fought Manny Pacquiao earlier because he would have made even more money. It would have been more of a spectacle. Now, a lot of people say he was ducking Pacquiao. I'm not sure about that. If you want to make that argument, you can make that argument. But that's definitely one of the moves he should have made probably 5 years before he did it. But the Pacquiao fight, I don't think was his most challenging fight anyway. His most challenging fight, in my opinion, was fighting a much younger Marcos Maidana. Now, Maidana coming off the knockout win against Adrian Broner, um, Maidana was seen as the next big thing, and people didn't think he could be stopped because anytime he even was knocked down, he got back up and then gave a good fight, either won the fight or made it very close. He was very indestructible. You couldn't knock the guy out. He was just that tough. But Mayweather showed him it's a marathon and not a sprint because when Mayweather fought against Maidana in that first round, he gave Mayweather everything he wanted. He punched 100 times. It was just crazy, but he couldn't keep up with that output. And Mayweather knew he couldn't keep up with that output, so he pretty much wore him down, similar to what Ali did to Foreman in the rope-a-dope. Mayweather did the same thing to Maidana. And they fought the second time. It wasn't even close because he just figured him out. Mayweather's motto was pretty much, if somebody else figured you out, I'm damn sure we're going to figure you out because, I'm the most smartest person in the ring. So I'm going to figure it out eventually. So you give me 12 rounds and you don't knock me out, you're going to have problems trying to win. So, but that match also with Maidana showed he can fight tough fighters in their prime. Now, most people might think Maidana was younger, so he wasn't going to be a threat. But when you think about Alvarez and what he did to Alvarez, Alvarez is one of the most dominating fighters of all time. He already has 70 fights, and I don't even think he's 30 years old yet. He might be 30 years old, but he's been professional since he was 15 or 16 years old. So Alvarez fights showed his prowess, in the ring. But what's more impressive, what he did outside the ring, being able to get the higher purse amounts on these fights. he would give fighters a couple of $1 million, and he would take 50, 100, plus $1 million on his end, because most of these boxers never got that much money. So he always stressed that he was the A side. So these fighters were happy to take that couple $1 million, or having to take in lesser percentages, because this still going to be the most money that they ever had. And they're going to get the exposure and the opportunity to win against one of the best fighters ever in history. So it's a low risk, very high reward in return. So he knew that, and he played on that role to do so. And plus, he had his own promotion company, so he also got more pieces of the pot. And being able to do the high purse amounts and high, you know, ticket gate prices that other people weren't able to do, because his fights were spectacle. Because, like I talked about earlier, he was box office and created shock value. Now, it's not just about how you can fight, but it's also how you sell the fight as well. And he was doing both. Most fighters have promoters to do that, but he was doing it on both sides. So very impressive to do in Mayweather's. Um, on Mayweather's side, and just from a marketing standpoint, he should, it should be a class talked about how he marketed himself, and without a, college education, minimal education that he had, but he was able to be, watch the game from, his father being able to fight, being a boxer as well, and his uncle, rest in peace to him, who was his trainer for most of his years, being able to teach him the game inside and out, and he just took it to the next level. And it should be, he created a master class on that. He wasn't liked by many, but you have to respect what he did in and outside of the ring, just being, the intelligence and the great moves that he made financially and from a physical standpoint of still being healthy to talk normal and have all of his faculties still in place. So salute to Mayweather. And as always, until next time, I'll see you next time.